Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your girl, Lauren Rei, right here on the Lauren Rei Live Show, coming to you live from my home. And I got my boy Jay the Gentleman with me. What's up, Jay?
I'm coming live from my home. I'm doing well. A
You
little
doing
rainy
well?
day. It's a rainy day. It's kind of depressing, but it is spring.
I think it's a perfect day to pod though. Like
For
we're in the
sure.
house,
No, for
we're
sure.
chilling.
It's perfect day to get all your emails, all that stuff done. But I'm doing good. How are you doing? You all right?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. The weather is changing. Everything is nice. I'm really excited
Finally.
about that. Whew. So
Yeah.
excited about that because I don't do well with the winter. Like me, I'm a spring baby.
Yeah.
So I don't do well with the cold weather. I'm like ready for the sun.
Yeah.
And I looked at the forecast this weekend, and Friday is supposed to be 80 degrees, y'all, in Philly. So
It's gonna be crazy.
now I'm
People
actually
don't,
gonna
people forget how to drive when it gets nice outside.
I'm actually gonna stay in the house. I'm gonna be honest with you. I might like clean my grill off and like throw a couple burgers or something on there, but I ain't
That
really
sounds
gonna be.
lovely.
I'm not really gonna be in these streets like that though, right? Because you don't know what's gonna happen. So
Right.
yeah, but I'm good though. I'm excited. We have a really good guest tonight,
Yes, let's get into
um,
it.
and he has a bunch of gems to drop. I'm sure he will. So our guest tonight, he is the CEO and the co-founder of a really important platform called Forbes the Culture. And we're going to get much more into that about what that platform is. And he has another business called Sporty Marketing as well. I mean, he's all over the place. I mean, if you don't know this guy in the city of Philadelphia, you pretty much live under a rock. So,
Pretty much.
without further ado, let's introduce our guest tonight, Mr. Rashaad Lambert. Welcome to the show.
Woo!
There he is. What's what's up? Just so
I
you
love
know,
it. I
disclaimer,
love
y'all.
it.
We have already poured our drinks this evening,
Salute.
right? We've
Yes.
already talked a little about it. So,
I should have got a
oh,
glass. Jay got a glass.
Jake, right there, he got fancy on us
That's
real
that's
quick.
cause that's because he's Jay the gentleman. Okay, I
Right.
get
Had
it
to
now.
put this mason jar to use somehow.
Rashad, I was like, let me get my red cup. Rashad was like, well, I only have black cups. I was like, that makes a lot of sense for you to only have all black everything,
Forbes the
right?
culture all the
So
time.
can we
Yep.
can we can we have toast before we start? Can we
Yeah.
Sure, let's do that. What are we
toast,
toasting to? A
toast
good,
to a great interview before we
great
even
show.
started? Why not?
I like
It's
it.
gonna it's gonna be a
Cheers.
vibe, everybody, for sure. All right.
Man,
So
Rashad's
let's
been a part of the Water Ice family for a while.
Long
yes, for
time.
a very long time. He has been interviewed. He has set in on interviews. Anything we need Rashad for, he is there.
Yes.
So we were really excited to finally have you on this platform.
All
So
right, thank
let's kind of jump right into it. We're not going to start at Forbes the culture because you have a much longer resume before we even got to that point.
you. You can
Yes.
So
start wherever
tell
you want to start.
well, I'm going to allow you to. So tell our audience if someone does not know who you are, who is Rashad Lambert?
There's a lot of people that don't know who I am. I'm sure.
I
I'm sure.
don't
Let
I'm
them
feel
sure.
like
There's a
know.
lot. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this right now. Like, who is that guy? Why does he have a picture of game on his wall? But, so I'm Rashaad Lambert. I am from West Philadelphia, born and raised. Unlike Will Smith, he's from Overbrook. And shout out to Overbrook though. I'm joking. um, let's see. Where would I start? I am an entrepreneur, student of life, father, brother, son, best friend to 7 people, and
an associate to many.
associate to many. I'm an acquaintance of many, even more. Um, man, it's really and we were having like some pre-pod talk, and I was just saying that like it's really interesting to like I've never really been comfortable being in front of the camera. I've always been like a behind the scenes guy, just like you said. Like I've sat in on interviews. I did an interview before. I think the last time I did an interview on water rights, I had my hat like all the way down here. Because I just always like to like propel people forward and push them to the forefront as opposed to making it about me, you know. Um, but since you asked, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 10 years old. Started my first business then before I knew what starting a business was. I so many things. I just don't even know where to even go next. I mean, I guess I used to rap. So let's just start with fun facts. Let's start with things that nobody knows. Like maybe that might be.
I feel like it's a rite of passage for everyone that's born in Philly to be a rapper at one point.
Hold on. What was your rap name, Rashad?
Spit. That's where that came from.
Okay.
That's where that came from. That's Spit. So my original rap name when I went to Greenfield, it's a school in Philly. I lived in West Philly. Spoiler alert, if anybody from Greenfield is watching, I didn't live in Center City. So I'm sure y'all knew that though. But I had a fake address so I could go to Greenfield. My mom, a shout out to my mom. She held it down until I snitched on myself by accident. But my rap name, so I lived I lived in West Philly, but I went to school downtown. So if you know downtown is full of like, if you know Philly, people that are watching, because I don't know if Nigeria knows Philly, but I used to go downtown all the time, and I would always see like the businessmen in suits as they walked around with their briefcases and all that stuff, and I would try to like walk like them and like imitate them during the day because they would walk past the playground. And one thing I always used to see them do is spit, and I was like, oh, I guess if you're important and you get to like spit, but I guess it's because they like smoke cigarettes or cigars or something, so they would be like spitting on the sidewalk or spitting in the street. So I started walking around and I would just be like, just spit like. And like I never really had to spit. I just would make myself spit because I'm like, oh, this must be what important people do. They like sit up straight and they stand tall and they walk with what the Eddie Murphy called it, a regal gait. So I just was doing that, and then people started calling me Spitty. And then my first rap name was Spitty Raw. Ready and willing, and then Raw is war spelled backwards.
I'm not mad at that. That's actually a pretty decent. That's a decent rap name. That's a first rap name. I like that.
Yeah, and that was like I think that was maybe 6th grade. By 8th grade, it was like full on Spitty Raw. I was like tagging my name places and all that other stuff. And then when I graduated in 8th grade, I went to high school, of course, because that's what you do after 8th grade. And it became Spit Raw. Because I was like, I'm growing up, I'm maturing, I don't want to be Spitty. Also, ironically, Sporty Marketing is the name of the company, but Sporty was my father's nickname. His name was Tom, but Sporty was his nickname. Everybody knows him from Sporty. I wish my keys were down here because I got a keychain the guy's name on it. But so it was like Sporty, Spitty. And I was like, all right, I want to be my own person. So, and people used to call him Sport sometimes. So I would just like, all right, I'm going to just go with Spit. Not even thinking about the, that connection between the two. It just kind of like happened now. You're just watching me have this realization in real time.
Right.
So then it became Spit Raw. And then once I stopped rapping and went into my like party promoter stuff, then it just became Spit. People never stopped calling me Spit because that's what people call me. Even when it was Spit Raw, girls, just people around just always used to call me Spit. Like, yeah. And then eventually, by the time I became like a fully grown adult, I started studying like a lot of like Egyptology and just different things about like about the origin of like Africa and like Kush and like Kufar and all that. And I started learning about different kings. And then it was like, and I read this passage once that said, I think it might be Shakespeare, said, if thou doth not proclaimeth thyself a king, who shall? So I was like, all right, well, I proclaimeth myself a king. So then it became King Spit. And that's how that whole thing, it just went on from there. And people walked up to me in the street and say, King Spit. And I'm like, that's not my name, but okay, that's fine. I understand. It's okay because I named myself that, so it's fine.
So at what point did you transition to say, okay, I'm going to put the rap game away and I'm going to be more so an entrepreneur, which is where you still are today? Like, where did the transition come in?
So when I say that I became an entrepreneur at 10, like that wasn't a joke. Like I really became an entrepreneur at 10 years old. brother Buddy, he was this older guy that was in my mom's church. He was one of like the trustees, you know, the dude that like wear the bow tie, but he not Muslim. He like a full-on Christian. And he used to carry a briefcase to church, and no lies, briefcase used to be full of mints. Like I used to always think it was like all this important stuff in there, and it probably was. It probably was like the bank deposit slips and all that. But he used to always have like the mint balls too. Like nobody can really eat that. It just was supposed to keep kids quiet during church. And he passed away, but he was the guy that used to clean the church or whatever. So he passed away, and most of the people in the church were like senior women. Senior, how am I supposed to say this? How you call women old without like mature?
The elders.
There we go. They were elder women. And even at 10, I realized that like that's not right. Like I don't want them to have to do this. So I told my mom, I'll clean the church. Like I know how to clean stuff. I've always been good at like organizing it. If I was to start any other business, if I wasn't doing this, I probably would be like some type of like architect or like interior designer or stuff like that. Because that's the stuff I used to do as a kid because I played with Legos and Lincoln Logs. And I used to try to like mimic that stuff that I would build into real life. So I would look at my closet like, oh, I can make my closet look like this Lego closet. Anywho, so started off just cleaning the church just to help my mom out. And then a couple times she had something to do and she's like, well, I'll drop you off there. You can go and clean it and I'll come back and get you. And thinking that she was going to have to come and clean behind me and she would come and do the glove check. Oh, y'all know the glove check?
Yeah,
like
you
white glove check, yeah.
Come and rub it against the pew and go,
right.
Oh, okay, no dust. Yeah, no dust on this bar either. No dust. I'm like, oh yeah. And she was like, oh, okay, all right. You might, be. And she let me do it a few more times. And my mom is still to this day is heavy into like the church scene. So all her friends are church ladies, everybody. So started doing that, and word kind of spread like that I was pretty good at this. So they were like, well, we have a church building also that needs cleaning. Is he able to help us? And they were paying me. I don't know. I don't want to get them in trouble, but like none of them, I mean, most of them people did anyway.
We're not naming.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because they were paying me, and then the other churches started paying me, but it kind of became too much. It's only like I'm in school Monday through Friday, and I only got 2 days or 1 day really to clean like 4 or 5 churches. So I started asking my homies, those 7 best friends that I have, yo, do y'all want to make some money? Because I need some help. So can you help me clean these buildings? So that was kind of, and not realizing I was starting a business, I just was like, I'm getting some money. I want to put my homies on and let them get some money too. We can get money together. Why not? And that lasted for like 3 years. And around when I was 13, like 12 or 13 is when I started rapping, and it wasn't cool to be like a janitor no more. So that's that. It doesn't sound so good in your raps, yo, cleaning up pews, having views. Like it just don't work like.
So the entrepreneurial thing was always in your spirit.
Yeah.
And we passed the rapper, and now I mean probably college and everything, and now you're starting. It was Sporty Marketing, your first, not your first business you started, but was that the next thing, like when you developed Sporty Marketing?
No. So I retired from rap when I was like, I don't know, I probably was maybe 18 or 19, I think, maybe 20. And when I say retired, I mean like as an artist. I still was writing. I wrote a couple songs and stuff that y'all probably even heard, but I can't say because I'm not but I kept writing. I would write for other people. I would help different people in the studio and stuff like that. But I just couldn't see myself being an artist anymore. I became a father really young too. So my son was born when I was 16, and he's 18 now. And at the time, it was kind of like, all right, this is a serious thing. Like I have a kid now. So yeah. I have to like take this really seriously, and I could chase this rap dream and see where this is going to take me, or I could figure out how to really get some real money. So even when I had these businesses, I always had a job. There's not a job you can name that I probably haven't had. I told you I started off as a janitor, so I was already starting from the bottom.
Right.
I've been a waiter. I was a produce manager at a fresh grocer when there was only one fresh grocer. Before they spread out all over the city, it was only one. It was in Upper Darby. Me and my homie used to run the produce department. Shout out to Fa. And like just everything, just trying to figure out what was going to be sustainable to be able to buy Pampers and all that other stuff. And I was still rapping on the side and doing shows and stuff like that. And probably a part of my story that people don't know is that we were actually like signed as a group at one point in time. It's like the pre-YouTube era. And we were going around doing shows and touring and all of that. And this is why like my friendship with these guys is so important, is because the reason why we broke up as a group is because we really chose friendship over music. It was like I chose fatherhood over a dream, but then I also was kind of like, we got to a point without naming the guilty. We had a manager at the time that was like robbing us blind. We were doing all of these shows and doing these like East Coast runs, like going to New York, Virginia, all this stuff, and doing shows. We were at like SOBs one night and found out that we were supposed to be getting paid for these shows, and none of us were getting paid. Like we were told that this was a promo tour, so it wasn't costing us any money, but we weren't making any money. Like, yeah, not at all. So, and kind of like even going back, because this story is all over the place, but even going back slightly to right before that show, we started selling merch. We learned about the merch game really early on.
Yeah,
I remember picking up Streets is Watching, the CD, and like I opened up the CD sleeve and I was going through the CD sleeve, and Jay-Z and Dame was selling like Rockefeller leather jackets. And you could buy like a Rockefeller this. So I literally like mimicked that. And I was like, oh, we can get jackets made. I went online and figured out how to get an 8-ball leather made. And we had like, we were from on 58th Street. So we would go, we would take like a leather jacket, put an 8-ball in the back, put our name right here, this right here, which is crazy because Hector, shout out to Hector. He just bought me for my birthday a varsity jacket that literally looks like my Holotip jacket. He don't know this story. He never saw it before. And I was like, man, I love you, man. But that's the stuff that we used to sell. We got headbands, keychains, like dog tags from the gallery. Got them customized, and we used to sell them. T-shirts, our CDs. You can get the mixtape one way, or you could get it if it was autographed. It costs like $10 more. Like we were trying to find ways to make money until this promo tour was over.
Right.
And once we found out that it wasn't a promo situation, and then our manager was trying to get one of us to go solo, and it just was a bunch of like a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on. And we just had like a family meeting. Like, listen, I love y'all. Like, this is like we all in this together. Let's decide what we want to do. And my man was leading the meeting, and I'm like, listen, I would rather be friends with y'all until we die than to go on in this music stuff and figure out that we never really wanted to do this, and this like tear us apart and all this. We end up like the Fat Boys. So let's just put this to the side, like, and let's focus on something else. So because we had an audience and we had kind of like a
following
base, we decided that we were going to transition that into throwing parties. Because we're like, oh, we're not gonna rap anymore. Like everybody kept asking, when the next mixtape? When the next mixtape? We were only 3 or 4 mixtapes in. Like this wasn't a very long, illustrious career. And we just started throwing house parties in places that we kept getting kicked out of before Airbnb. Our Airbnb was, yo, don't your sister got a crib? Yo, don't your brother got a crib? Yo, can we rent that joint for the weekend? We'll give them, I don't know, $250 up front because it was a dollar party. So we was going to easily make, $1,000 because people going to come in, leave. Like, so, and like each time you leave, you had to pay again. That was what one thing.
That was the rules of your dollar holler. You had to pay again to get back in.
And, yo, if you go outside, then you got to leave because we couldn't keep there. They had like, that like if you see a bunch of people going in and out, as soon as they go outside, that's drawing a crowd. That's going to draw cops. So it's like we were trying to like incentivize people to stay in. Like, if you come in, stay in, and once you leave, you go in. If you want to come back in, you got to pay. I'll pay another $1. I mean, it was $1, so it's not a lot of money, but it still was. When you 16, $1 is a lot of money. One more $1, you could get on the bus and get a transfer. So you see what I'm saying? Right. So we started doing that, and then one of my homies, I think his uncle used to throw club parties, and he was like, "Yo, man, we need to like get y'all in the clubs. I was like, we're 16 years old, or so 17 at the time. I don't even know how old we were, but it's just like we weren't 21. That was it. Maybe I think we might have been 18, but I'm like, we're not 21. He like, yo, do you want to do it or not? So at that point, I was working. I had my first corporate job, I think at the time. I had been a waiter. I stopped being a waiter, met the guy, got a chance, started off entry level. So during the day, I'm working in this corporate job, and at night I'm throwing these club parties. I'm only 19 years old, and they didn't care because we had a following, we had an audience, and they was paying. So that's all the club owners care about. Club owners are very, very greedy people. So they didn't care. And that was my next chapter for a while until like 2008. And I'll never forget November 4th, 2008 is when I decided that I was retiring from club promoting. Anybody know why this date is significant? Anybody?
November, what was it?
4th, 2008.
Yes, Obama.
Booyah. Yeah. You get the prize. I don't know. Cheers. That day, I threw a party with Rick Lowe's called "My President is Black," and I know it's a little cringy now, but I mean at the time it was.
Oh no, it was much like Jeezy. I mean, Jeezy made a song about it.
Exactly. We played "My President is Black" probably like 15 times that night or more. Especially once he actually won.
Right.
So this was I will never forget this. And every time I tell this story, I can see it. Like I can visually see this as it was happening. I remember walking around the club. We were at Level Room or whatever was on Front and Market at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like walking around and I'm looking at all the screens that got the numbers going up. And I'm like, oh, this dude is actually going to win. Like, this is like, because I didn't believe it. I'm like, a black president? Yeah, right. Nas said it's never going to happen. Nas is always right?
Right.
And it was like, it kept going up. It was like 30%, 40%, 50%, 62%. I'm like, oh, and they were like, we're willing to call this. Yeah. Barack Obama is the next president. I was standing there like,
yeah.
Like this is really about to happen.
And like it was kind of hot in there, my eyes might have been sweating a little bit. So
somebody was cutting onions. I was cutting onions.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna go outside real quick. And I went outside and I was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe that this actually happened. This dude won. I didn't see this coming, and I was mad at myself for not believing it. And then I could hear something faintly in the distance. It was like some type of noise. And Market Street is Front and Market. So to my left is City Hall. So I'm looking up and I can see like probably all the way clear up to like 5th Street. But I can't see the source of the noise. I just can hear it. And as it gets closer, I hear people like marching.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can see them arm in arm, like it was like every color, Asian, black, white, everything, like everybody. And they were singing, "We have overcome." And I was like, that's a stretch, but I get it. I get the sentiment. and I was like, okay, I want to do something different with my life because the realm of possibility in my mind had been stretched at that point.
So you may not believe this, but real talk, like one of my questions for you tonight is, when did you decide that you wanted to make a mark in the world? And I think you just answered that question without me just asking the question.
Yeah.
So at that point, this has evolved into you being who you are right now in this huge platform that you have for Black and brown people called Forbes the Culture. And I mean, first, let's start off by just asking you, how did you start your relationship off with Forbes just in general?
Okay. So
if you can talk about that.
No, I can. It's just this story is not simply about Forbes though. This is Desiree, I always got to give her flowers, because if it was not for her, I would not have any of this connection to Forbes. If it wasn't for her belief in me and her eye for talent. So, and Barack, I guess I should give Barack a lot of the credit too, because so like Desiree Peter Campbell, when I met her, was the deputy mayor of Philadelphia. I think that was her title. I might be messing it up. We might have to Google it. But Desiree was working with Mayor Nutter. But prior to that, she worked on Barack's campaign. She was one of his campaign managers. She had got him elected, got a Michael Bloomberg elected, Cory Booker, like if you like kind of like a who's who. And like at the time, Mayor Nutter was on track to be something more than mayor. And that's what she does, is she makes winners. So I met her. I knew who she was just because I'm a nerd at heart. People don't know it because they think I'm cool, but I'm not. I'm a nerd. And I just used to like study like political stuff, just kind of to be one, because I always think that they're up to something. So I'm like, at least I need to know who the players are, just if I ever need it. And I just so happened to be a Philly Tech Week. Shout out to Technically Philly Tech Week. I was doing a campaign for them, and I was doing social media representation. And she so happened to be one of the guest speakers at one of those events for Philly Tech Week. And I saw her, and I was like, "Yo, this is my chance." I don't know when I'm ever gonna get to be around her. One, I didn't know who she like I didn't know why she was in Philly at the time. I was like, what's she doing here? Like, we don't have any Barack.
The stars were aligning for you.
Right. So when the event was over, and she was on a panel with like two other people, and I'll never forget that it like parted like the Red Sea. It was like as soon as the event was over, everybody went to these two other people because they didn't know who Desiree was. Which if they had known, they would have went to her. But they were like, they were like bigger names at the time. I can't remember who it was. So she was like standing there, and she was putting her stuff in. She was about to leave, and I was like, "Yo, Miss," like, hey, not yo. I ain't say yo, but I was like, "Excuse me, I'm like a fan of your work." And she looked at me like, "A fan of my work? Like, do you even know who I am? Like, who do you think I am?" I was like, "I know who you are," and I started running down stuff off her resume. She looked at me kind of like you would as somebody who's like telling you your life.
Yeah.
and she was like, "What? How can I help you?" And I said, "Listen, I don't want anything from you. I just really want you to be my mentor. Like, I'm trying to learn from you. You do a portion of what I want to do, because politics is about marketing. You know politics extremely well. I feel like I can learn a lot from you. I just want to be able to like reach out to you. Or do you have a card or something? Or can I email you? I don't mind being Joe." That's what in Philly, or for the non-Philly people watching this, that's what they would call Joe. I don't mind being called Joe. I have no problem with it. Joe has gotten me places that being cool would never get me. Exactly. So just that one conversation, I was like, "Hey, I got this water company." At the time, I had just, I think I had just started up Cerebellum. I was like, "Yo, I got my own like black-owned alkaline water company," and started explaining what alkaline was, because I was nervous. She's like, "I know what alkaline is."
Stop mansplaining.
Yeah. And she's like, "All right, listen, I'm gonna buy a couple of cases from you for my office. Here's my card. Call me Monday." Cool. I sent her an email that day to follow up, just to thank her for meeting her. Mm-hmm. And I followed up. I was in her office that Monday, and we just kept the relationship going. Not even a whole 2 months later, I still kept in contact. I would ask questions time to time, just to kind of like, just to keep myself top of mind. That's one thing. If anybody that's watching this doesn't know a lot about networking, when you meet people like that are important or like of status or stature, and you know that they meet a lot of people, you have to make sure that you keep yourself top of mind for them, or they will forget you. It's not on purpose. It's not because they think
busy.
You're better than you or nothing like that. They're super busy. They meet tons of people, and if you don't stick out, then you won't stick out. Right. And when an opportunity comes up, you won't be top of mind. So I started telling her more about the stuff that I was doing and what I was trying to do. I started explaining to her about podcasting. And that is something I told her, because she didn't know what it was. And nobody really knew what podcasting was back then. When I started my podcast, we were one of the only Black podcasts, period. And two, we were one of the only podcasts in Philadelphia. And everybody.
What year was this? What year was this, Rashaad, when you started your podcast?
So I started my podcast in 2011, I think, maybe 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
And then it didn't become like an actual thing because we were just kind of playing around with it.
Sure.
This would have been like 2012, 2013, I guess, which is when I met Desiree. And it still wasn't a lot of podcasts.
No, it was still kind of like, it's like a niche thing.
Absolutely. So 2013 is when I met Desiree, actually, because maybe 2 months after that, she called me one day, and I lived in West Philly. If you know anything about West Philly, it's about 15, 20 minutes away from downtown. If you're at the train, it's like 15, 20 minutes. And she called me one day. It was like, hey, how fast can you get to City Hall? And I was like, about 45 minutes because I wasn't dressed. And she was like, okay, can you be here in less than a half hour? And I was like, sure. I don't know how I did it, but somehow I got from my house not being dressed to dressed downtown, and I wasn't driving at the time. I got there in like 24 minutes.
Adrenaline.
And just like, actually, broke a record. That should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. Just for saying, if Guinness World Records is watching this, holla at me. And got in the office, and it's her, Mayor Nutter, Randall Lane, who at the time was the editor-in-chief of Forbes magazine, now chief content officer of Forbes. And as soon as I walked in, she was like, "See, told you." And I was like,
"That was a test."
Yeah, I'm like, I told them what?
You're all just sweaty.
And she said, "I told them that you would make the deadline because you really want it." And I was like, I don't even know what it is that I really want, but yes, I do. Whatever it is, what y'all hear, yes. Whatever this is, I want it. And she introduced me to him and told him who I was. And she explained to me that they were talking about bringing a conference into Philly, and that they were talking about young entrepreneurs in the city, and that they had to tap into the young entrepreneurs in the city if they wanted to make it successful. And if that's what they wanted to do, I'm the person that they had to talk to. And once again, it was like onions being cut, and I was just like, "Oh, thank you."
The sweat for me getting down there.
Sweat, man. My eyes, man, they just be sweating sometimes. You know, it get hot, and you gotta.
The train.
It's okay, y'all. Men can cry. Stop it.
I'm joking. Oh, y'all both gonna take a drink on that.
So, I mean, up until this point, you, like you said earlier, you had a lot of different jobs, occupations.
Yeah.
For me, I myself as well, I've had a lot of different jobs. Lauren has too. And I always try to, even if it's a terrible job, I always try to take something away from it, whether it's knowing what not to do or knowing that you don't want to do that for the rest of your life, or just different things within the description. What are some of the more notable things that from your early days of working as a janitor and a club promoter, some of the big things that you could really take away from that helped you get to this point where you're hustling, you're meeting these people, meeting these deadlines that you know that you're supposed to meet.
Yeah.
Like some of those things, some of those notable things that I feel like a lot of people could kind of take from their old jobs or apply to something new.
Absolutely. I learned a lot of things. So one thing, and these won't be in order, but they're just in the order that they are coming to me. That's why I started laughing and smiling as you were saying it, because I'm like, oh man, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I learned
the bigger ones that really stand out.
Yeah. I learned what gaslighting was before it was even a thing. I didn't know that this had a term. I just knew that every time that I was right about something, they tried to make me feel like I wasn't right. And like, I don't know what I'm talking about. But then they would use my ideas in the bigger meetings that I wasn't in. And then it would come down the pipe. And I'll be like, I just said that. Like, I know. Yeah. And they told me that was a bad idea.
Yes.
But then they used it.
That one struck a chord for me. Because
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
I learned from, so that was in corporate. I learned from being a waiter, customer service is extremely important. Extremely important. Mm-hmm. When I was a waiter, I was making $2.83 an hour. I gotta say that again, just in case anybody missed it.
That's a real number.
$2.83 an hour. So I lived off of being good at customer service. If I wasn't good at customer service, and it's not about being nice, it's not about being fake, it's about understanding people. Luckily, one of the few college courses I took was psychology and sociology. So it's like the study of how people do things that they do, and then the study of why they do things that they do. And that's actually why what made me so good at marketing, because I understood people. But in being a waiter, that customer service aspect was like extremely, extremely important, because I could get a 25-cent tip or I could get a $25 tip. It all depends on building that rapport, having repeat customers, understanding that the customer is not always right. That's a lie.
It's such a lie.
Yeah,
most time they're wrong.
Yeah, that the customer is not always right, but you have to know how to communicate anything to anybody. So if I have something negative to say, I still need to communicate it in a way that you're going to receive it and it's going to have a positive impact. So if you're being rude, I'm going to let you know that you're being rude in a way that you're going to look at yourself and go, okay, I probably should treat people like this. This isn't cool.
Yeah.
Not like, yo, who you think you talk like? No, I don't have to like bring the North Philly out of my West Philly. It just is kind of like, it's just like, I need you to understand that you need to treat people a certain way moving forward so that somebody else doesn't have this experience with you.
Right.
From being a janitor, I learned measure twice, cut once. So if you know anything about cleaning, well, I kind of learned that from being an apprentice later on. My uncle was the head electrician for the school district of Philadelphia. Shout out to Uncle Steve. And I was his apprentice for many years on Saturdays. But measure twice, cut once. Because in like electrical work, you can only run a wire once. Once you cut it, you can't add additional wire onto it. I mean, you can, but that's janky. Right. It's probably going to cause a fire, a big fire too. Sorry if I ever caused any. But when you're cleaning, the first thing you do is dust, then you sweep, and then you mop. You can't sweep after you mop, and you can't dust after you sweep. It doesn't work like that. So you have to do it in that order. So you got to make sure that you do things in the proper order. So I always say measure twice, cut once. Even when I think something is ready, I got to test it one more time just to make sure. Because once I push that button, I can't unpush it. So yeah, those are just a couple. From rap, I learned like rhythm, like doing things in a rhythm. So when I was younger, I used to stutter really bad, like terribly, to the point where at times I couldn't even get like a full sentence out. And what I started realizing is that I had to like speak in a rhythm, and it helped me to kind of figure it out. And that's how I started rapping, because I just started writing poetry at first, and then I would say the poetry out loud and it started sounding like a rap. And I was like, oh, that's hot.
Yeah.
And I would start saying it to other people in like the lunchroom, and then they would say something and I would say something, and I'm like, mine was better than his. So I'm gonna keep writing these. And it just was kind of like everything has a rhythm though. That was basically it. Like not just speech, but everything has a rhythm. Like meetings have a rhythm, it has a flow. Zoom meetings. You got to start the Zoom meeting with a joke just to get everybody like loosened up a little bit. And there's a rhythm. If the meeting starts wrong, it's going to go wrong the whole time. If you throw the energy off, if the conference call, the meeting, dating has a rhythm. Like everything has a rhythm. So those are some of the lessons that I learned over time. I think one of my probably most important lessons came from corporate America, and it's knowing when to stop, knowing when to quit. And like the 48 laws of power, they always say one of the laws, I forget which number it is because I'm not good at this, but one of the laws, it says like once you've met the goal, stop, basically. Right. You don't have to go beyond and just want like stop and then focus on the next thing.
Right.
I reached what I call there's a concept that I came up with. It's called the black ceiling. So we talk about the glass ceiling all the time, right? And how it's usually related to women in corporate America, and the glass ceiling is like you reach the glass ceiling because you can see that there's other levels above where you are, but you can't get past them unless you break through this glass ceiling. The black ceiling is completely different. I feel like Black people in corporate America at that time, and maybe now still, reach a certain level where you've hit a ceiling where you don't know that there's a level above it because they make you feel like that's the top because they're basically telling you that's as far as you're going to go, my brother.
Right.
I almost said the word, but it's like as far as you will go, because that's what they thinking though. Like this is, you ain't going nowhere further than this. This is your ceiling right here, and you got a choice whether to stay and until you retire or you go. I got to a point where I decided I'm done. I'm out, and I bounced, and I never went back. Well, I'm back now, but I never went back to that particular job. And if I hadn't left at the time that I left, it was like perfect timing. I left June 19th, 2009. Miss Carol, I'm giving all kinds of shout outs now because I always want to make sure that it's okay to remember the people that helped you along the way. Like, make it seem like you did it yourself. Miss Carol McDuffie, I'll never forget. Carol was retired and then came back to this particular job as like a consultant. And Carol said, what are you like? One day she came to my desk and was like, what are you doing here? I was like, I work here, Carol. And she's like, oh, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? Like I thought you'd be gone by now. I thought you would have figured it out by now. And I'm like, figure what out? And she was like, you don't belong here. Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like you gotta go. Listen, this ain't it. Don't let these dream killers kill your dreams. Like, get out of here. And I was like, oh, I guess I reached the black ceiling. Well, time to go. And I decided that I was going to leave on November 4th, 2008 is when I decided that I was going to leave. And I didn't like Dave Chappelle it and just start kicking over trash cans. I developed a plan. I figured out when it would be best to leave. And I left June 19th, 2009. And September 11th, 2009, ironically, is when they brought me back to that same company as a consultant. Because I had been there for like 8 years and I knew everything about the company. I knew everybody's job. I knew every position. And I'm one of those over workaholic people. That's my like addiction is work. And so I'm like first one there in the morning, last one to leave and I was doing everything. But when they went to hire a replacement for me, they were like, we don't even know how you did all this stuff. Like I kept all my processes really close to the chest. So they were trying to like bring in people to like kind of replace it and stuff was stacking up to the ceiling. They're like, we want you to come back. And I was like, no, I don't want to come back. They're like, no. Oh, we just want you to teach the new people what it is that you did.
Okay.
So I was able to come back as a consultant and I worked in insurance. So timing, again, knowing when to leave. I left before open enrollment. Some may say I did it on purpose. Some may say it just was divine intervention. But
it's all part of the process.
Right around the time that all the work started piling up, they were like, ay. What do we do, Zordon? And then I had to come back and basically teach them how to
Power Rangers reference.
Alpha reference, man.
Yeah.
And I just was like, all right. So I came back there and that was my biggest contract. So if I hadn't left, I would have never got that contract and I would have never felt like I could survive as an entrepreneur because I would have been stuck in this mentality that the only way I can make money and provide for my family is by staying in this position. So yeah, those are some very, very important lessons that I'm glad I learned. I learned the hard way and I'm still learning. It's funny to hear people say stuff like they think I'm successful and stuff like that because I don't see it that way. Like I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I see success and I'm like, that is way up there. Like I'm still like way down here somewhere. That is where maybe once I get there, I might be like, okay, this is, a level of success, but I'm still learning every day. I'm still growing every day. I'm still taking lessons from my mentees. Like I'm mentoring them and they're teaching me stuff, or from my kids or from my students or from like this. It's just always, I feel like there's this idea of, and I guess it's a personal thing, like of what people identify as success and what people identify as like making it. And I just never want to feel like I've made it. I know that might seem like I'm ungrateful or something, but like, I know that complacency is a drug that once it's in your vein, you can't get it out.
It's hard to kick.
Exactly, you turn into Pookie. So I don't want to be complacent smacking my wrists. Like I want to make sure that I always like remain hungry for the next thing. And that's what I think, like keeping certain people around me and keeping certain people away from me. I think that kind of helps. As well as my 7 best friends. Like if it wasn't for them, I'm telling you, it's really interesting to be in a situation where you can go out, there's like cameras and lights and all this other stuff, and then all your friends be like, "Man, you ain't shit." I was like, "Oh, thanks, y'all, appreciate it."
It humble you really quick.
Yeah, I'm like, love y'all too.
Thanks. I have to say that I love the fact that you have 7 friends, which is the number of completion.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's for a reason, but that's pretty dope. But I want to transition into Forbes the Culture. Can you talk to us a little bit about how Forbes the Culture was developed, and really what is it, if no one knows what it is?
Okay, so Forbes the Culture is an organization. It's a basically it's a community. It's a self-help group. It's our own table. People always talk about having a seat at the table. Forbes the Culture is our table to discuss what we should take back to these other individual tables, which is how it started. So it's a community that is designed to create more equitable pathways for Black and brown professionals, students, entrepreneurs, entertainers, athletes, and celebrities, everybody. We don't have many places where we can discuss our plans, our future, to build a better and more powerful combination for tomorrow. Right now, we're not Voltroning well. And I say this often as a joke, and only like 80s babies get it, but Black people as a community are not Voltroning well. We got an arm here, we got a leg here, we got a head over here, and they all spinning around each other, and they're not coming together. Maybe for 90s babies, we're not Power Rangering well. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. But
I think they get it.
but it's just everything. I feel like it's so scattered. Things are so separated. And Forbes the Culture is based on the 3 C's, and which is like connect and collaborate and change. So if we connect based on what we have in common and not not where we differ. So it's not about your religion. It's not about any of that stuff. It's not about your political affiliation, even though that may affect it. But it's more so about what do we all have in common. This is what we got in common. So this is what we focus on. And we collaborate because we can't collaborate unless we're connected. And we're never going to change the way that business is done with us unless we form a commonality. I know Black people are not a monolith, so it's not like everybody's got to agree and we all got to be the same, but we'll never be able to change the narrative around how to do business with the Black community. Not with individuals, not with Lauren, not with Jay, not with Rashaad, but with us as a community. How do we engage? How do corporations, how do people engage with these communities as a whole, unless we are unified? And that's that collaboration piece. And once we connect and we collaborate, then that's how we change the game. That's what Forbes the Culture is really based on. So we have currently over 7,500 members worldwide. We are an official, community of Forbes. We started off fully independent. I'm not sure if you wanted me to get into like the origin story or not, but
so yeah, I was going to just say my next question for you was, how did you get the partnership with for Forbes the Culture with Forbes actually?
Okay, all right, cool. So I'll finish this story and then I'll get into that. So okay. And the other thing is that I feel like diversity is like a buzzword. Diversity is for white people. That's not for us. Diversity is something that makes people it's something that they can point to make it seem like they're doing something when they're not actually doing anything. It's window dressing. It's a way to misdirect. Like point away from the problem, basically. Like if the problem is here and they say, well, we have this many of this race, and it's like, you're missing the point. That's not it. The fight overall is about equity, not equality, because equality is subjective. I don't care if you like me. I want to make sure that you pay me fairly, and that just like everybody else, I want to make sure that I have an equal stake in everything, and that I have an equitable stake is the most important part. Like, does my vote count as much as yours does if we're on a board together? Does my opinion count as much as yours does if we're in a meeting together? Do my initiatives count the same as your initiatives if we're on the same playing field? That's equity, giving me a piece of the pie so that I can do what I want with it. I feel like equality is more so about making other people feel good. It's like, I want to treat you as my equal, which makes the person that is treating you that way feel like they have the power to make you their equal, which they don't. It's like, they're like, I'm going to bring you up to my level and treat you better. It's like, no, I don't want that. Give me money. Like, where does the money reside? Like, that is the only way that we are going to be able to purchase our freedom, so to speak, like, is through equity. So going back to that is kind of where we are now. Going back to how we got to this point. Forbes the Culture was started in 2017. It wasn't a plan. I didn't plan on starting an organization. I didn't even know what a Forbes the Culture was. I woke up that morning going to a Forbes conference in Boston, because it started off, those two that I worked on were in Philly in 2014 and 15. In 2016, it moved to Boston because we got a new mayor, Kenny, and he wasn't with it.
Right. I remember I went to the opening for the 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, at the Kimmel Center, right?
No, it was the concert.
Yeah. Yes. Oh man, that was fun. It was Skrillex, I think it was.
Afrojack and Wiz Khalifa.
Afrojack. That's what it was. That was dope. And so 2016 is when I was nominated for the 30 under 30 list, but I was 30 because I'm old. And in 2017 is when we started Forbes the Culture, and it just started off as I woke up that morning just going to the conference, and because I had been to every conference since the first one, people started thinking I worked for Forbes. Because I worked as a consultant on the first two conferences, they thought I was staff, and they would see me every year because it was like a reunion. So you would see if you made the list or something, then you always come back and network. It was a big networking thing. And I admittedly don't always wake up the earliest when I'm going to conferences because I'm there to network. I don't care about the panels and stuff like that because that stuff is all fluff. That's not.
And you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah. So I woke up, and by the time I got there, everybody was pissed. And I'm like, what's everybody so upset about? Apparently something had happened. And they're like, we're outraged. What are you going to do about this? How could you let this happen? I was like, I don't work here. So I'm just here just like you. So one person, and then two people, and then three people, and four people, and five, and they're like a dozen people have come up to me, finger wagging and yelling, and I'm just like, and neck rolling in some cases, and I'm like, all right, listen, I don't work here, and I also don't beg for whatever it is that y'all want. So let's do this. I'm gonna figure this out. Give me like an hour or two. I'll figure something out, and we could like talk about this in our own way. So I started calling restaurants and figuring out, I figured I'm not rich, but I can afford about 25 people. We could have a dinner and we could talk. And by 25 people, I mean, like, I could get a plate of wings. Everybody could take one piece of wing. They could split it.
Group sharing. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you clarified that because I was like, 25 people.
Yeah. And I was like, and we could have some drinks, meaning like I get a pitcher of water. Everybody
like some soda that's on the house.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, what y'all got? Seltzer? Bet. Seltzer it up, brother. So I couldn't find a spot. I was so excited about what I was doing. I was talking too much. So I was like, yeah, I'm trying to get together 25 black. Hello? Oh. So eventually I was like, listen, I'm at this Forbes conference and I'm trying to gather some people together. And they were like, oh yeah, of course, please come. And I was like, Oh, I was missing the key word all along. I should have said that from the beginning. Duh. So I invited 25 people. I was walking around. I did it all through word of mouth. Side note, I kind of skipped this part, but my family is from the South. So they're from North Carolina. I spent my summer down there is where I learned how to drive and all of that. And my grandma used to always tell me about Point of Pines. Point of Pines, if you're not familiar with it, is a cabin. It's not there now. It's in a museum now. Ironically, I never knew this until I was in DC. But Point of Pines is a cabin that sat as the on the central location between 4 plantations, and it's where they used to cram a bunch of slaves in there. But it's where they would go at night to learn how to read, write, learn astrology and like astronomy, and learn about all these different things, ways to freedom, song, what the codes in the songs meant, when to sing certain songs, because they were starting to figure out. The slave masters were kind of dumb because they weren't really educated, but they were starting to figure out like whenever they sang this song, people would run away. It kind of was like, this isn't a coincidence. There's something about this song. So, and a few times they got caught like with Bibles reading and stuff like that. That's how they taught them how to read because they didn't have books. So they would teach them the words in the Bible. And that was kind of like a thing. It was like this thing. It was done in secret. And they had a song that they would sing to tell you what time to meet at Point of Pines. Like what time would you come meet there? It might be 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And they would leave their cabins and all cram up into this cabin at night and kind of learn these lessons. So I started thinking about that because I'm at the Forbes conference. I had this relationship with Forbes, meaning that like some of my friends are staff there or were staff there because they all left now. Or not all of them, but it was kind of like, I feel like I have an opportunity or I have more so like a duty here to do something about this, but I also got to be really strategic about it because as the saying goes, all skin folk ain't kin folk. So this could be a setup. Like they're like, so I don't really know what's going to happen. So I would rather do this in secret. Also, whenever Black people are doing anything, it always looks suspicious to other people, but they always seem to find their way in our stuff. So because this was something that I specifically wanted just for us, just for the culture, and I called it the For the Culture Meetup, I didn't want other people to infiltrate on our space because this was supposed to be a safe space for us to vent and to come up with an actionable plan. That's the main thing, that I didn't want to just go and talk trash. I wanted to come up with actionable steps that we could take to bridge the gap within the Black diaspora and to take these actionable steps back to our respective communities. That was my plan. So I did it all through word of mouth. Long story short, I took this Point of Pines thing. It kind of was like in the back of my head, and it was all through word of mouth. I would see people and I would just tell them like, yo, here's the information. Join this WhatsApp group. Because again, I also didn't want everybody to have my number. So I was like, join this WhatsApp group. Well, not have my number. It just was easier. So I'm like, here's the link. If you see other people, give it to them. And I ain't had to say nothing else because they knew what this meant. So, and I wasn't paying attention to the group throughout the day. Should have did that. I would have saw this coming. But I invited 25 people. And I told them, if you invite anybody else, let me know. Nobody let me know. So it was scheduled for 8 o'clock. By 8:30, there was 50 people there. By maybe 9 o'clock, there was like 100 people there.
Whoa.
By the end of the night, there was 300 people in the top of this restaurant. We were all like, we didn't have name tags because I thought it was only going to be 25 people. And they had a table set up for us, like with what kind of like a long table. And everybody had like at one point, we all just had to stand up. Because it was like, there was no way.
Club. You had the club there.
Yeah, it was no way we were all going to be able to fit. We started, this is funny. We started doing like these introductions. And every time somebody came in, we had to start over. And then eventually we was like, all right, but we're not starting over no more. Anybody that comes, just introduce yourself. And then you'll meet people as the night goes on. And we laughed, we cried, we joked, we turned up, we drank, we ate. as we do when we get together, or when there's like that like atmosphere in the air, but we stuck to the mission and the agenda. Everybody had to say who they were, what they did, blah blah blah, and what was their commitment to pushing the culture forward. That was the thing that you had to say as soon as you came in. Even if we was playing music, whatever, music stopped. Yo, who are you? What's your commitment to the culture? What you gonna do? And like eventually it got funny because when you're saying it sober, it sounds one way, and eventually it's like, who are you? What are you doing? So it's like Fight Club. I won't ever talk about what anybody said their commitment was because it was a safe space. But I will say that if I had to put a percentage on it, I'm gonna say about 75% of the people that were there kept to what they said they were going to do, and they're still doing it now. I feel like that's a good number. That's a great number. And the majority of those people are still members of Forbes of Culture to this day. And so that happened. The next morning I wake up, I have thousands of messages in this group. And then I realized, there was way more than 25 people in this WhatsApp group, even before we started. Before we started, there was 100 people in the WhatsApp group. So I was like, I didn't know. I think at the time, I don't even think I really used WhatsApp like that unless I was out of the country. Right. So I didn't really know how it worked. I didn't know you could even make a group that size. 256 is the limit if you want to know. So I woke up and I'm going through all these messages and I keep seeing these hashtags Forbes the Culture, Forbes the Culture. I go on my Instagram, people tag Forbes the Culture, Forbes the Culture, Forbes the Culture. And I'm sitting in my hotel room like, now what is Forbes the Culture? I have no clue what these people are talking about. And I keep scrolling in these messages and I find a video. And the video is me giving a toast, like, thank everybody for coming out. I'm glad we did this for the culture. Forbes the Culture. Forbes the Culture. Everybody, Forbes the Culture. Didn't remember that at all. So I was like, okay, this is, and then everything was like, what's next? Can't wait to see y'all again. What's next? What's next? And then I started watching people like formulate business relationships and like, what's your email? What's your Instagram? And I was just like, something here. Like, but what do I do? Because this wasn't my plan. Like, I just wanted one dinner. That was it. I was just trying to make a bad situation better. Like, everybody was pissed. And I always like to try to channel that negative energy into something that's more positive, like Goku. And I kind of was just like, all right, it's here now, so I have to do something with this. So I got the LLC, I found trademark, I got the logo. I called my homie Fax of Daryl that runs for the Culture Clothing. I'm like, yo, I need a logo because we have a thing now, and I need to like get this up and running quickly because everybody is expecting me to. Like, I this wasn't my plan, but they're obviously looking for me to make this work. So I guess I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out along the way. And so fast forward, it grew independently. By the next year, 2018, we had like 1,500 members. We went back to the Forbes conference that next year, 850 people strong. Most of them, people paid. They didn't get in for free. They paid to go there, but they were all wearing Forbes of Culture hoodies, Forbes of Culture hats, Forbes of Culture t-shirts, Forbes of Culture everything. And then all the Forbes staff is like, what is this?
What's this? Right.
What is this and where did this come from? And that thing I said about Fight Club, right? That's what we said that night. But I was joking. And I will always say like, this like Fight Club. But I didn't think they was going to actually treat it like Fight Club. So
no one was telling what it was.
Nobody would tell them. But they would say, you got to ask Rashad. Oh, you got to ask Rashad. Oh, you got to ask Rashad. And when I found that out, I was like, thanks, y'all. That was great. But also, like, I was joking. Like, you could have told me. So by the time it's the last day of the conference, the CEO was looking for me. Randall Lane, who was I think he was still the editor-in-chief at that time. I don't think his role had transitioned yet. But Randall and I were friends since 2013. Just to like be clear, we got super tight because both of our like initials are RL, and we just kind of like connected on that as a joke. And then we got like really tight over the course of those next few years, but we never talked about business. Randall became one of my mentors just like in life, because I could see like he had this like carefree attitude, but he always was super on top of everything. Everybody liked him, even the people that hated him. And it was like, yo, how did you do that? Like, I want to cultivate that type of air of unpredictability too. I like, that's dope. And we never talked about forms of culture. People always hear this part and they're like, no, you had to. At no point did we ever talk about forms of culture. We always talked about everything else. He's a dad, I'm a dad. He had a girl, I had, like, it just was like all of that type of stuff is what we talked about. And I would ask him for like marketing, business advice and stuff like that, but none of the Forbes related stuff, because I'm always leery about people that I'm cool with that are more successful than me. I never want them to think that that's why I'm friends with them. I'm friends with people because I'm friends with them. I'm not friends with anybody because of what they do for me, because anything that they could do, I could do for myself. Right. So I always try to like overcompensate for that by not asking for anything at all. It's like a weird thing. So when it happened, he was like, what is this? Like, why didn't you ever tell me about this? I'm like, I mean, we don't talk about this kind of stuff. Like, I never asked you about what's going on in Forbes because I don't care. So it's kind of the same thing. I didn't think you would care. And so they finally like one of the guys cornered me in like one of this lounge, and he's like, so what is this Forms of Culture thing? He's like, you're Rashad, right? And I'm like, yes, I have a badge that has my name on it. Yes, I'm Rashad. He was like, so what what's this this Forms of Culture thing? And then Randall walks in, he was like, yeah, what's this Forms of Culture thing? And looking at me like, bruh, like, you supposed to be my, like, what's going on? Right. So I explained it to him, and they're just all like in awe, like, what? Like, how? And we finally like talking, and like, we want to like work with you on this. Like, this is something that we are definitely interested in, and we didn't know. And I told them about the origin of it and how it came about. And they're like, well, we want to do better in like areas like that. So like, let's talk. So we talked to them for like the next, I don't know, 6 months of like negotiating what a partnership could look like. And then in July of 2019 is when we signed with Forbes as an official partner. Worked through that the rest of 2019, and then at the top of 2020 started discussing what it would look like if we were going to continue this moving forward. And one of the things to note is that ever since 2014, it might have been the first time he offered me a job. Randall offered me a job to come work at Forbes. He was like, man, you don't gotta keep hustling like that, man. Come work, and you know, blah, blah, and I was so turned off by corporate America. It used to give me the heebie-jeebies every time he would offer me a job. I was just like, a job, ugh, yuck. Yeah. and it just, because I had PTSD, because I'm like, job means they're gonna steal my ideas. They're not gonna give me credit. Oh, and here's the black ceiling. No, not the black ceiling. So it just was like, I don't want that. But we always kind of kept it kind of like a joke. Like, every time I would call him frustrated about like, oh, this client, this, he was like, well, I mean, you wouldn't have to deal with that if you right. Laugh it off. I'm like, no, man, I'm not coming to work there, man. I don't want to work there. So in this instance, it kind of was like, we've started this partnership together. You see how things are going, but there's a disconnect. Like, we don't have anybody internally that understands what it is that you're trying to do. Nobody understands it more than you do. And at the time, it was myself, it was Venetia, and it was Mendel. And it kind of was like, y'all understand this better than we do. So even if it's going to be kind of like this, what can we figure out as a type of situation to have somebody internally as well as that external perspective as well? So we started talking about that, and I'm like, I understand this, and like, now that we're working together, you know what I'm doing is like, no disrespect, but I just really don't want a job. I don't want to work here because of just what you're saying. Like, I don't think y'all get it, and I'm going to be frustrated, and then we're not going to be able to be friends no more. So I would rather, again, preserve our friendship. I always choose friendship over all this other stuff because that's just going to last forever. So what we decided to do was, at that point, was I said, this is what I will do. I don't want to come and take a job there, but what we can do is we can create something new together. The mission of Forbes of Culture is to change the game and to create new things and to create more equitable pathways. And one of my personal goals is to have more Black and brown people in the C-suite and in high-level executive positions. That's not necessarily a Forbes of Culture goal, but it's one of the things that I want to see to create. I want to like cultivate these new minds and let them let me and become the CEO of Pfizer, the CEO of this, and all these other, because that's not something that we've seen. We've seen a Black president, so now I know that's possible. But now I want to see 25 Black CEOs, 50 Black CEOs, 100. I've never seen it. So I said, listen, this is what I'll do. Let's create a new position. Here's what I want it to look like. Here's what I think it should entail. Here's the things that I want to do. Also, here's all the things that I want to do with Forbes of Culture. And what do you say? And they were like, cool. And I was like,
so you're basically telling me right now that you created your own position at Forbes, like you created what that looked like if you were going to work there.
Yeah. And then we figured that out for another 6 months because I'm a shrewd negotiator. I kind of like, so we figured that out from probably January until like June. And then around June, I was really angry in June. June 2020 was a very tough month. I was in a very, no pun intended, a very dark space.
Weren't we all in a
way? Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. So my negotiation tactics, like I didn't even want to talk at that point. Like I didn't even want to talk anymore. Like I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like I don't even want to do this. And the one thing, we were having a conversation and I just remember talking to him, and I remembered that I was talking to my friend. That was the main thing. It was kind of like, yeah, we are in this negotiation, but we took off those hats and we were all right. Like, let's just talk. And I said, listen, the main reason why I'm doing this is because I want to be able to pass this on to somebody else. What I'm trying to do here hasn't been done before. And I don't really care about me. My time is up, essentially. I've worked every job. I've done everything that I set out to do. Everything that I'm doing now is stuff that I've never thought or dreamed of. So I'm satisfied if it stops right here today. But what I won't be satisfied with is if it ends with me. It can't end with me. All of this stuff that I went through and that I've learned and everything that I've done, I didn't go through all of this just for it to stop here. So what I want to do is create a position that if at some point I decide that I don't want to do this anymore, which I'm sure will happen, I want to be able to pass it on. I need to be able to groom my own replacement. I don't want this to be like whoever is now running Forbes of Culture, or like whoever is this position. I want it to be, this has to be somebody who understands every time. Every time this position changes hands, somebody has to understand what's at stake. And hopefully the stakes are not as high the next time that this position changes hands, because hopefully we will have made significant progress, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But just in case I haven't, had to build in a fail-safe that I need to be able to choose the person that's doing this job next. And once that part clicked, he kind of understood where I was coming from and why I didn't want a job, but I wanted to create a career for somebody else, then I was ready. I said, okay, now I'm ready. I can concede on a lot of this stuff, but that's one thing I'm not willing to concede with. And then in July of 2020 is when I became a senior vice president and director of culture and community at Forbes.
You just answered my next question. I was going to say, so what was the title?
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Actually, it's funny. We went through a bunch of different titles because he was like, you can as we were getting through, and they're like, so what do you call this? And I was like, call what? He was like, what do you call this position? I'm like, me. That's what it's called. And it's like, no, you got to give it a name. I was like, oh, all right. So I kind of like started. I made a long list, and then we went through them and crossed them all. And I didn't want it to be like culture officer, because that doesn't really mean what it sounds like it means. Culture officer is actually an HR position. So then whoever filled it again, like it just was too confusing. I was like, this needs to be something that people always understand what it means, like immediately.
Within the title.
Within the title. And that's how it kind of came about. I was like, I don't want it to be a regular employee level. It needs to be like executive level, but it also needs to make sure that people understand what it is that is not for like a journalist, because I'm not a journalist, even though I got this dope video, but I'm not a journalist. But I want to be able to create space for more Black and brown journalists at Forbes, and for us through Forbes the Culture to be able to tell Black stories and brown stories, and to tell it in a way that's authentic to us, and that it's not just a February thing. So that's kind of how this whole thing came to fruition.
So through that, Forbes the Culture has expanded on so many levels. You guys have so many different platforms, events. You guys do a great series called Culture Talk. You guys have talked to the likes of a lot of people. I mean, I've seen T.I. on your platform.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of activists on your platform, a lot of people in tech, the who's who of anyone that is a part of the Black and brown community who are actually out here doing things. So for someone who wants to be a member of Forbes the Culture, what does that look like? Who is someone who should be a member of this community?
Great. So I'll say this first before I forget. If you want to apply to become a member, you can go to ForbesTheCulture.com, and the application is at the top of the page. Excuse me. I'm ginger beer. And so who is the ideal Forbes the Culture member? So the ideal Forbes the Culture member is someone who already has an idea of the way that they want to impact the culture. That same question that we were asking people as they came in, they didn't know that they were becoming members, but they were. That is one of the main things. There's a bunch of questions on the application, but one of the main things is like, what are you trying to contribute? How do you plan to improve the culture? What are you doing right now? What have you done already? And what are you going to continue to do? I don't want anybody who just wants to say, I'm affiliated with Forbes. That ain't it. There's a bunch of people that do that, or they try to act like how can I put this? I'm trying to, when I look away, I'm trying to think of a way to say it in a nice way.
Like clout chasing?
There's a bunch of people that I know, just like I said earlier, all skin folk and kinfolk. There's a bunch of people that I know that have never been as Black as they are until they apply to become a Forbes Culture member, right?
Yo, stop. I cannot.
And it's so crazy. I've had white people lie about being white just to apply for a Forbes Culture membership. Like, we background check everybody. We vet these applications.
You in here lying right now.
Wani John. Like, listen, I've never, it's just like, it's amazing to me the type of stuff that I see. So this is for Black and brown community. I'm not saying it's excluding anybody, but that's who it's for. I think you can figure out the rest. And the other thing is that you have to have an idea of what you're going to contribute and how you can contribute. You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to be at the top of your game. A lot of our members are students. A lot of them are like professionals just starting their careers, but they know what they want to do. They understand what position they play in the game. Everybody doesn't have to be the quarterback. Everybody doesn't have to be the running back. Everybody doesn't have to be the coach. But but you have to know what your position is and play that position well. And that's what we ask people to come into Forbes the Culture knowing. What do you want to do? How can you contribute? And then the rest is you got to pass a background check. So hopefully you're not a pedophile, or you never like beat a woman or nothing crazy like that. And then we can talk.
Nice. So I am proud to say that I am a member of Forbes the Culture.
Hey.
I've been a member now for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. It's been it's a great community. The chat is always popping when it's someone new and stuff like that. But it's an array of people that you meet that is a part of the community. And that's why it was important to have you on the platform, because a part of my contribution is being able to share my platform with the other people that are a part of the culture, right?
Absolutely.
And are part of that community. And one of the reasons why I wanted to start the podcast is to have a platform and spotlight not just our Black and brown community, but a part of it was because I wanted to spotlight a lot of people in that community who are doing things and people don't know about it, right? And they can't get on the bigger platforms like the Breakfast Club or, Joe Budden or whatever the case might be, but someplace where it's a safe space and people can be spotlighted about what they're doing, and movers and shakers and people who are out here just really getting it and doing their thing. So, you're a very busy man, Rashad. So to get you on the show, to make time, we really do.
Hey, listen, any time for y'all, anything for y'all. You ain't don't do that. Don't do that. But can I say one thing about you? And you can cut this out if it's embarrassing. I don't care. But listen,
you talk about this.
Bro,
go ahead.
Listen.
I know what you're about to say.
What?
I think I know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
What? I'm just going to say that the highest form of inspiration is an example, right? And outside of just you having this show and having this podcast, you are creating an example for a lot of young women out there that want to get in media, that want to have their own show, that don't think they can, that look at people and say, like, I don't want to do the Wendy thing. I don't want to do this thing, but I want to do my own thing. And you created like your own lane where it's fun, it's positive, it's not all about gossip, it's not about none of that. It's like pure, it's entertaining, it's educational, it's edutaining. But I really feel like that you are setting an example. And fun story, Hector was filming my class one time, I think, and one of my students knew about the podcast from you.
Really?
So yeah, and that's the thing. She's like, "Oh, I follow you. You work with some girl named Lauren, right?" And it was like that's what I'm saying. Like you might not even know that type of impact that you're having, but the babies are watching, man. They watching.
That's what's up.
I just want to say that.
I appreciate that. No, I thought you were about to. We could talk about this offline. But I thought you were about to talk about an embarrassing podcasting moment when I.
No, listen. I wasn't gonna bring it up, but we can talk about it.
Do you remember this, Jay? Do you know what this is?
I think so.
We were in it's not funny. This is when we were still hustling. We was at WeWork. But we were at the WeWork. And friend to the show, Chill, was on the show again.
Oh, that's
do you remember this?
Yes.
And this is when we were taking live comments from the audience during the show.
Yeah.
And like I said in the beginning, Rashad has sat in on many of our interviews.
Yeah, that's right. Wow.
And I don't remember who this person is, as I'm not
going to say
I really honestly don't remember who the person was. One of the live comments was like, "Yo, ask Shorty, can I help her take her braids out?" And I was like, what? And I was like, "Is that?"
Hey, yo, when it's time for you to take them braids out, can I help?
Yeah.
I just want to know, can I help you unbraid your hair?
Yeah.
Can I help you unbraid your hair? I never heard anybody say the word unbraid.
Not Mario, let me braid your hair, but let me help you unbraid your hair.
Can I unbraid your hair?
And now thinking about that at the time, now that I'm thinking about it in my later age at this time, that was pretty a nice suggestion.
Right. He was helping. He was trying to help.
It's very tedious when you in here by
yourself. How many dudes ever help you unbraid your hair?
Not one. Not one.
Exactly.
He was ahead of the game, man.
Normally,
shout out to. I won't say his name, but
I was gonna say, do you remember who it was?
No, I don't know who it was. I'm about to text him about it in the group chat. Like, yo, remember you said? Remember you was wilding that time?
That was 4 years ago, yo.
That was 4 years ago. Did you look that up? It was 4 years ago.
No, I just remember we were in WeWork in 2017.
We were in WeWork that bad, and that was 4 years.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Oh, that was hilarious. And he just kept saying it. Like,
he would not let it go. And like you and Chill and everybody in the joint was like cracking up. And I was
That was
like,
funny.
For real, y'all going to do this right now? Like, y'all really going to do this? Not knowing that, at 37, I need somebody to help me come take these braids out.
Hey, listen, I'm going to hit him up there and be like, yo, remember when you asked your could you unbraid her hair? I think she might need you now, man.
Don't do that. But no, that's what I thought that you were going to say. And I was like, if he bring this up, and now I just brought it up myself. But those are...
I was going to bring it up. But
those are classic LRL moments. We might have to put a clip of that. We might have to put a clip of that in this.
We gotta find that.
I think we still have it. We have it in the archive somewhere.
No, you got to. Please.
Y'all were clowning on me forever.
For the rest of the show. I think for the rest of the show.
I don't even feel like we could even get through the rest of the show.
Weeks later, we was like tweeting Lauren like, yo, did you get the braids out yet? Because my man said
still available.
I feel like I was at the release of Chill's beer for the first time. And I think Bull was there, and he was like, "Yo,"
he was like, "Yo, why you ain't let me take your braids out that time?"
and it was my first one. That was one of my first on-camera interviews. And Chill would not let that shit go. Yeah. And so there was so many outtakes because all he kept doing was cracking jokes. And I'm like, yo, you're fucking with me right now. I'm trying to get this interview done, but I still had braids. It must have been like a week or so later.
It wasn't long after.
It wasn't long after.
It was not that long after. Yo.
Lord.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
That's how long we've been running. But no, seriously,
memes off of that, everything. Like, yo,
that's right.
I was a meme, y'all. I actually was a meme at one point. You ain't real until you become a meme.
Bucket list.
Hashtag let me take your braids out.
Unbraid your braids.
I didn't understand it then. I wasn't ready then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. He was ahead of the curve.
He was the original Justin LeBoy. He was the original.
For real. He was ready.
He was ready.
Game. He was trying to put you on. He tried to show you the way.
Ladies, I didn't know, but if you get somebody that's asking to help you take your braids out,
that's the move.
That's the move right there.
We need to, when this comes out, we need to make this a Twitter poll. When is the last time that your man helped you take your braids out?
Never. It's gonna be
braids, your weave, anything.
So for my ex, I helped her cut her weave out. I never forget this, yo.
But did you cut her hair, Rashad? Did you cut her hair?
No, I did a great job. I wish we could live call her and ask her. I did a great job. Matter of fact, I still got a picture because I had to use the light to make sure that I could tell the difference between the hair and the hair. I'm like, all right, I got these little teeny scissors. My hands are pretty big, so I'm like, all right, I'm trying not to like and I'm like, don't move. I'm like, stop moving, yo. Like, stop. I got this. Just don't move.
It's so much pressure. This is such one of those. Tell us how that you are with a black woman without telling us that you're with a black woman. This is definitely one of those moments. Shout out to all my kings out there that are helping their queens
take them crowns off
and appreciate them with their straight backs underneath their crown and helping them take out them braids because it's serious. If he can help you take out your braids or take out your weave and see what's underneath that, John, if it's been in there for so long,
be under there. Woo.
So I don't want to deter the train.
I know we're getting off.
But yeah. I must have missed the memo when Lauren became a member of Forbes the Culture. So I'm gonna have to visit the website or something.
Yeah, what's up? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't know how that worked. I thought it was one of those things that you get invited to, understandable.
That's how it started. So before we didn't start the application process until we started in 2017. We started the application process. I feel like it was like the top of 2019, maybe, or the end of 2018.
Okay.
No, it was the end of 2018 is when we started to take applications. And then we changed the application and revamped the whole thing. And we're about to revamp it again. So we'll get in now.
Okay. tomorrow.
But it just because it grew exponentially, and I was control, and everybody was like, "I want to be a member. I want to be a member." And you know how you said tell us that you dated a black woman.
Without saying that you did it.
Yeah. You dated a black woman. It was like, how do I tell you no without saying no?
Right.
So I fill out the application, and then when we get it, I'm like, and they send it to me for like approval, and I'm like,
I'm good.
Yikes.
Not you, Jay. You good though.
Jay, how didn't you know? Like, this how you know when your co-hosts don't know nothing about you. It's like in my bio. Like, it's in my bio.
I didn't even know. I don't even like. Don't get it twisted. She don't be reading my bio either.
No, she had a bio. Go ahead. I didn't even know you had a bio.
I didn't even know she had a bio. Like, what are we talking about?
Jay does stuff. I be like, oh, you hosting this? Oh, okay. This week he just announced something. I'm like, oh, okay. You hosting this now?
Jay used that platonic best friend line. Like, oh, I didn't even know you had a new hairstyle.
Oh, shoot. Okay, cool. I guess we're just working buddies. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, we only been doing the show now for 6
we just
years.
working acquaintances. Got it. Okay.
Woo, man.
I'm like,
no, that's dope. I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know, but that's dope. I was always just curious about it because obviously Hector would do events with you guys and whatever, and I was like, that it seems cool. I just didn't know how. I just thought anytime I hear Forbes, I'm just like, oh, that's on the table, or they'll come to me or whatever. Like, I don't know how that works. I just keep working,
Yeah, not for you, it's not. And that's the thing. That's the narrative that I want to change, because a lot of us feel like that. A lot of people feel like when they see Forbes, they feel like it's unattainable. But Forbes, the culture, is here to change that narrative, that Forbes is not unattainable. We need to make sure that we tell the stories of our people properly. We can't just let it we can't just let Black stories live in Black publications all the time. It has to branch out. It's got to be, but that also means that we need to increase the amount of us that is in these other publications.
Sure.
So it can be told by us on a larger scale. Shout out to all these other publications, Black Enterprise, Blavity, all of those, because they're all doing dope stuff. But those are all relatively new compared to Forbes. Forbes is 104 years old. It's got an audience that is definitely not used to seeing the type of stuff that we've been doing, but they are getting it and realizing that their mentality has been wrong, and they have missed out on an opportunity to be a part of now. So now, anybody that's trying to be down now is like you're playing catch up, because you could have been down. You could have been down with us before we was even saying Black Lives Matter, when Black Lives just mattered and we didn't need to say it.
Right.
So,
All right. So we talked a lot. The Black press. We talked a lot this evening. And you have an amazing story, Rashad, really. And it's always fun having you on the show. I had some fun questions that I wanted to ask you that were for the culture questions. So I'm going to ask you these questions, and it got to be fast. And it can't be any explanation around it. It's either this or that, okay? Quick hitters, all right? So.
Yeah, when I get with y'all, I just, I speak freely. I'm not usually like this. All my interviews are short. You seen them?
I love these conversations, the ones that we could just sit around, talk, and chop it up. Those are great. Those are back to our original Lauren Rei Live roots. I mean, you did my job for me tonight. I'm cool. So, quick for the culture lightning round questions, and it's only 3 of them. And Jay, if you think of one that you want to add in, please do.
Done.
So, first question: The Wire or Snowfall?
The Wire, because there would be no Snowfall with it.
Correct. Groundbreaking.
All right. The Cosby Show or Blackish?
The Cosby Show.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I didn't cancel Heathcliff.
I didn't cancel Heathcliff either. I'm sorry. I mean, people could be mad at my show if they want to, but
Cosby Show
and Lisa Bonet.
I still watch the Cosby Show. All right. And then I have MJ or LeBron. Who's your GOAT?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Michael Jackson. I'm like, wait, that's my comparison. MJ, Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan is your GOAT.
On the court, MJ. Off the court, LeBron.
Yeah, on the court, MJ. Off the court, LeBron. Michael Jordan never lost in the finals. I'm just gonna look off on that one. I'm gonna look.
And he won Defensive Player of the Year one year, with, along with scoring titles.
Right, like LeBron could never. It's like no.
Oh, you're gonna have a lot of people.
I go back and forth. I'm just like,
how would you say?
I always go back and forth. Like I'm like, so I think I put it like I distinguish the two. LeBron is the GOAT off the court, and he's the greatest child superstar ever. Like he was in the spotlight when he was 14, and he was able to navigate without any really big controversies. Like
better than Justin Bieber.
Right, without a dad. Like I mean, he's the GOAT off the court, on the court right now. And
it's a different time. Michael Jordan couldn't be Michael Jordan back then because of the climate.
There's no way.
LeBron at that time wouldn't have been able to be LeBron. So it's really difficult to kind of compare the two. But I'm going to go Michael Jordan just because he paved the way for there to be a LeBron James. Like there wouldn't be this big superstar around LeBron if there hadn't been Michael Jordan.
All right, and a music question, and me and Jay talked about this earlier today. In a versus battle, who is taking it, Chris Brown or Usher?
You made me
no pun intended. Made you spit.
Usher.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah. Usher.
He got diamond albums though.
Brown thinks that nobody can beat him, but the thing about it is, it's not necessarily the songs, it's when you play them. And the reason why I know that Chris Brown would lose is because his confidence is too high. He would be playing some bullshit and Usher would just sweep the floor with him.
Let me tell you something.
Confessions.
When I heard,
right.
Thank you.
You can just play confessions.
Yeah.
When I heard this conversation earlier today about the versus battle with those two, but
they announced it already?
No, they're not doing it. I don't think they're doing it. He doesn't want to do it because he doesn't think anyone can beat him, Chris Brown. Mm-hmm. So that's why he won't do it. But anyway, I flashed back to the last You, Me, and R&B that me and Jay went to, and the impact of how everybody was damn near laid on the ground when they played You Got It Bad. And it's just like, every time an Usher song comes on, it doesn't matter what it is. You got
You're doing the dance in the rain. You're doing the grab.
You don't have to call. You remind me. Like, it's just like, you know, the person said, like, he has nuclear bombs. Like, Chris made
My Way.
Yeah.
My Way.
Nice and Slow.
What's Chris Brown going to play when he played My Way?
What are you going to play up against Nice and Slow? They call me U.S.
What's he going to play against Lovers and Friends? Like, come on, man. Come on, man.
What's he going to play against Love in the Club? And then if you put the remix on with Beyonce, it's just like, what are we going to do?
And if you want to go commercial.
It's Usher songs that I forgot about.
If you want to go commercial, you play Yeah. That was like one of the biggest hits of 2000s.
Yo, you know what's really messed up? There's two people that probably couldn't be beat in a versus, but we might never see. One we'll definitely never see, but there's another one that we might never see. We're never going to see R. Kelly in a versus battle because he's canceled forever. I don't even listen to R. Kelly's music anymore. That guy is finished. He's done.
It's too much.
I made a playlist actually that I'll send you. It's called 99 Reasons Why We Don't Need R. Kelly. And it's a bunch of slow songs that you can get your groove on to. You don't need to play 12 play and none of that nonsense.
Yo, that's going to be clutch because people really be struggling when R. Kelly songs come on to turn them off. I.e. me. I was one of those people. Like, if you ever hear R. Kelly song come on, you like, ooh, this was but you still got to turn it off.
I will send you the playlist as soon as we get off this. I will send it to you.
I will keep it a bean. I haven't played R. Kelly in years.
Exactly. The other thing is that because there's like ubiquitous references that are like all around, like I had somebody, I'll never forget. I got to read this to you. I took a screenshot of it because it's hilarious. I was having a conversation with somebody and she said, my brain and body are never on the same page. I said, well, what does your brain say? What does your body say? And I said, wait, Are you saying that your mind is telling you
telling
no?
you no?
Your body is telling you yes. And then after that, I was like, oh man, this
So
is
good.
terrible. So I had an R. Kelly jar. Shout out to a University Lutheran Center. I had an R. Kelly jar that's on my sink in my kitchen. Every time that I referenced the R. Kelly song or like accidentally sang an R. Kelly song, I would put $10 in it and I would donate it at the end of the month. It happened almost every day for 30 days. I had to donate $300 to the University Lutheran Center because it was like, I'm like, what am I doing? And then after that, I was good.
Yeah.
I was sick.
What's the other battle that's probably won't happen? Not
Juicy J.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see Juicy J. Nobody. Juicy J,
like
Juicy J from 3 6 Mafia. Yes.
I thought you meant Hove.
Oh no. I would never call Hove Juicy J.
I was like, what? I just heard Jay, and I was like, huh?
Hove might happen though. Hove might battle somebody. Like,
I don't think he'll do it.
I don't think he'll do it.
I mean, maybe like he might not do like a battle. He might do like a celebration or something like that. Like he might do a joint like I like D'Angelo did maybe. Because him and Swizz are really cool like that. So maybe. But Juicy J, nobody wants to see Juicy J. If you get it when we finish this, Google Juicy J's discography, right? There's a bunch of songs that were produced by him that you wouldn't even know. And when you look
as a producer,
okay. Yeah, even his 3 6 Mafia songs and then all the songs he produced, nobody wants to see Juicy J. His catalog is crazy. That's why when they were doing the verses, the producer battles back then, they was throwing around Juicy J's name and they was all like, nah. They was going to do Juicy J versus Scott Storch, and he was like, no, give me Manny Fresh. Like anybody else, not Juicy J. No way. Like you can't. He got 30 years of like hit songs. Like
I want to see Jermaine Dupri go against someone.
I thought Jermaine Dupri went against Jermaine Dupri did go against somebody. It wasn't official versus.
It wasn't on versus. It was on their own like platform.
Yeah.
It was
I needed official versus.
Yeah, Jermaine Dupri went against who did he go against though? It was somebody else.
Oh, I remember who this was.
Yeah, because I remember watching it like, man, this is whack. Cutting this off. This is. Like, that was when like quarantine team was quarantined. Because the only reason I started watching it because I wasn't going nowhere. I
remember.
They did their own platform. I forget.
Yeah.
Who it was.
DJ Paul?
No, it was. I'm about to look it up. It was Jermaine Dupri and someone else. There is somebody very known. We're all gonna go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, nah, not a fan.
Because they were trying to start their own like network or something. Who was it?
Right. I remember.
Wasn't it Diddy?
No, it wasn't Puff. Because that's what they were saying that they wanted to see on versus. They wanted to see a Jermaine Dupri versus Puff, but Jermaine Dupri went against somebody else. Was it Stevie J? No, not Stevie J. It was somebody like one of them.
Oh, yeah, it was someone like
one of them. Was it Brian Michael Cox?
Oh no, because he did a versus.
I don't remember who it was.
I feel like Brian Michael Cox did an actual versus.
Brian Michael Cox did. He helped Jagged Edge with their versus against 112. That's what he did. I can't remember who it was, but everybody wants to see this Missy versus
Dallas Austin.
Oh, Dallas Austin. That's who it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I found it. Dallas Austin. That's who it was.
Everybody wants to see this Missy and Busta. I want to see Missy.
Man, Busta's scared. Busta's scared of Missy because Missy can play all those Aaliyah records, and that's going. It don't matter what Busta played. That's going to win just because it's Aaliyah. Like,
well, Timberland just said on the Breakfast Club today that it's really Missy. Missy really is the one who doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
They said, because they said Busta didn't want to do it, but no, Busta even said because I would rather see Busta versus LL because they've been around the same amount of time.
Interesting.
So I would rather see Busta versus LL
I just feel like it's such a different. Well, I guess it's not a different time.
Not really, because like Buster could play past the Cavotier, and then LL could play knock you out. You see what I'm saying? Like if we going like tempo wise,
no,
like,
he has to play Headsprung.
Scenario.
Headsprung. See, yeah. You can play Scenario.
Like,
play 4-3-2-1, and then Buster could play Scenario.
Break your neck. Buster got hits. But they mentioned they should do versus, but music videos. Buster versus Missy. Now that would be dope.
Fire.
That would be
dope. That would be fire.
I would be into that.
I would like to see Janet Jackson versus somebody too.
I wouldn't mind that either.
That would be dope.
Who?
I don't know. It's a good question.
They got a couple good lineups coming up. Like, I mean, I guess Meth and Red, Earth, Wind and Fire.
And they got that Telly Riley rematch is coming up too.
They're Babyface is going to come back. They're going to do it right so we can actually hear it.
Yeah.
And not try to put a concert on.
Listen, that joint was classic. Oh no, they're going to put a concert on. Oh, trust me, Jay. I'm telling you.
It's going to be a concert.
Teddy, listen, if I know anything about Teddy, I know he's going to make it a production.
Yeah.
I remember that one because Jay was so frustrated. He was like, "I'm turning this shit off." It was like,
I was ready. Like New Jack, that was my shit. I was like, all right, cool. Like, give me dope.
I watched both times it came on because I remember the second time they did it was on 420, and I was like, I am watching this. I sat there the whole time and laughed the whole time. And
I literally was like calling Jay while I had it on my iPad. I'm calling Jay. He's like, no, I can't do this. Like, it has to be a better way. Like, I can't do this. I'm hanging up, and I'm like, no, just give it another chance. And he's like, no, I can't do it. A fun fact, and you can always cut this out if you want to, but I almost got in trouble during that versus because one of my exes was there working, and she was calling me trying to ask me to help them figure out how to get the
sound right.
On Teddy's
side. Yes. And I was like, so listen, this is what you gotta do. You gotta don't call me no more. Just text me. like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You trying to blow up my spot?
But no, this has been fun. We love having you on, on the show. You definitely have to come back when you have. Oh, I forgot to ask you. Do you have anything coming up that people need to be aware about? Anything going on with Force the Culture? What should we look out for?
When is this coming out?
Probably like April, May.
Okay. So right now I'm on tour right now. So look out for the Culture X series. State of Black Entrepreneurship is on right now. Look out for Money Talks coming this fall. Look out for.
Are these for all For the Culture members, or this is going to be just?
No, this is going to be everywhere. State of Black Entrepreneurship is out now. Beyond Black History Month Part 1 is out now. By the time this comes out, Part 2 will probably be out. And what else can they look out for? I'm trying to think of what I can say versus not say, because then if it's not out by then I'll be like,
stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
What's up with the merch? What's up with the do you guys still have Forbes the Culture merch?
Absolutely. Okay. You can get that on ForbesTheCulture.com also. We got the sweatsuits. Oh, so that's what's coming out in May. The spring collection is coming out. That'll be out in May. Right now, we still have, because it's still cold, so we got the Forbes of Culture logo sweatsuit. It's the first time that I did a interview and I wasn't wearing my own stuff. I had to put pants on the whole thing. So yeah, Forbes of Culture sweatsuits are definitely out. We got more hats in stock. We got the new. We are restocking I Am Not a Minority collection actually tomorrow. So by the time this comes out, it'll be restocked. Yeah, cool. Culture Makers collection is almost sold out for good. We just restocked, but that's like a limited run, and I don't think I'm gonna do any more of those because I want it to be like if you were there, you were there. If you know, you know. Yeah. So we got a couple more of those. So if you want one, you should definitely get one. If you want an autograph, then send them an email because I don't sign stuff. But that's it. Yeah, I think any way that you can support, we really appreciate it. It's all going back into the culture. So
nice.
Support the culture.
Word up.
All right, Rashad, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Everybody, make sure you guys are following Forbes the Culture on Instagram and all social media platforms. If you want to be a member, remember you can go to the website forbestheculture.com and apply at the top of
I will be doing that.
My man. Give me a text after you do it too, Jay.
You got it.
Jay's gonna do that tomorrow, and then we can be Forbes the Culture members together. Right?
Word up.
And make sure you guys are following waterice.com. We are your scoops to everything Philly. Make sure you guys are signing up for our newsletter so you can know about everything that's going on in the tri-state, right? We also have some really good stuff coming up for you guys, so stay tuned for that as well. Make sure you are following Lauren Rei Live on all social media platforms and all platforms where you can subscribe to your podcast. So your Google
streaming services.
So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube. We're there always. And look out for some individual brand and stuff that me and Jay have going on individually. Some of our merch and stuff is going to be coming out very, very soon.
Can I get some merch?
Yes, absolutely.
Of course you can. Can we get some merch?
Yes. Send me your sizes. I'll personally deliver it.
I know, because I wasn't going to bank on you taking it to the post office and mailing it. You wasn't going to do that.
Listen, I have you would be surprised. Me and my daughter will be in the we in the post office almost every week. She's labeling. I'm paying for it. So
listen, your daughter, how old is your daughter now? Because your daughter was at that interview that you bought her when we were at WeWork.
She is 12 now. That's how long ago that was.
Time ago.
Yeah, that's how long ago that was. And she's like, what? Because she was like on my leg. Like she was a little person.
That's crazy.
She's almost a teenager. Jesus.
Come on, stop. Slow down.
I'm sorry, my bad.
Another
time for another day.
Speaking of waterice.com, y'all always got the exclusives. Y'all put me on to my favorite movie ever is Coming to America, and y'all put me on to the McDonald's pop-up that's in Jersey.
Yeah.
We bought our tickets. We going on 420.
Nice.
Shout out to y'all, because I would have never known.
We can't wait to go because I'm trying to get that McFlurby. You
that McFlurby.
Because the toppings on the bottom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how you know.
We're really going to leave right now, but I was going down the dark hole of YouTube today, and I was really upset that people were giving this movie like such bad reviews. Like Joe Budden and them were tearing it up. It was another platform that was tearing it up. And I was like, why are y'all doing this? This shit
missed the whole point.
Yeah, like they definitely missed the point. Yes, there was a lot of product placement. Movies are expensive. It's Eddie Murphy. Who got the money to pay Eddie Murphy besides Netflix?
And all those cameos, and shit.
Yeah, like, yes, there was some product. Yes, they put Friskies in it. Whoop-de-doo. Like, it was. I was just whatever. Like, come on, y'all. When the director's cut comes out, everybody would be happy.
Nobody's saying product placement when they're watching Avengers, when they're watching all those superhero movies. Like, nobody's saying, there's Coca-Cola. Like,
nobody talked about product placement in what's that show that everybody watched that had the Starbucks coffee can?
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. Nobody cared until it was a Starbucks cup, and then they were like, okay, that's a little bit too obvious. And that breaks the fourth wall just a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, like I was pissed about that today. I was like, y'all not gonna keep trashing this like this. But
I just watched that movie again last night. I love it.
It's great. It was great. It was good stuff. All right, y'all, for real. We gotta go.
Okay.
So we're gonna be out of here. Make sure you guys are following us on all social media platforms and all streaming platforms. I'm your girl, Lauren Rei. I got my boy Jay the Gentleman here. We got Rashad, who is the director of culture and community at Forbes. I had to read that again because that's
a dope title. I'm not gonna lie.
That's a dope title.
Thank you. That was the one I landed.
I'm proud of you about that one. All right, everybody, you know how we end this show. Not all superheroes wear capes, but sometimes
they wear headphones.
Thank you, Jay. All right, y'all. We out.
Peace.